Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Lampcast. Today we're here to discuss the new Mount Eerie album, A Crow Looked at Me, and I would like to divert to Christian for a history of Phil Elverum's career.
So Phil Elverum is one of my personal favorite musicians. He is a singer-songwriter, folk musician, wrote The Glow Part 2, which was a landmark release for indie folk. And he started off under the name of the Microphones, now he's underneath the name Mount Eerie. Phil and his wife Genevieve made her cancer public. I think it was 2 years ago, 2015, through a GoFundMe, and they made the funds back. They made the goal, and then they made more so off that. But Genevieve still tragically passed away from cancer. And this record is very much a reflection of Phil dealing with Genevieve's passing and finding reasons to carry on. Since the time frame for this release is so close to Genevieve's passing, Phil hasn't entirely dealt with it. So we're really seeing in the moment how Phil is feeling about her passing. Even though throughout the album we get he'll often say it's been 3 months and 1 day since you died. It still hasn't. He's still not. I mean, who could? But
right. I feel like that's reflecting like there's still some symbolism.
Oh wait, this is Misha.
Yeah.
By the way,
hi.
Misha
Hi.
wanted to talk about this album.
It's
I
a good
go to
album.
school with Misha,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted to be here, and he's never been here before, so we should probably
Very true.
introduce Misha.
welcome
Hi.
to the
Hi.
show.
As I was about to say, yeah. So, I mean, the lyrics. There isn't a lot of symbolism here, like Christian said. I had the time to process everything, so I feel like that's reflecting like the stream of consciousness, realist type of lyrics, which work really well because it causes a really intimate feeling with the audience that I feel like Phil
Yeah.
Elverum wanted to convey through this album.
It's definitely like reminiscent of kind of Sun Kill Moon in that way.
Yeah.
It
made me feel like Benji makes me feel. But even Benji has had more time to process all the things that have happened in his life than this album does. There's nothing. There's like nothing in terms of turning this into something that you can learn from, or turning this into something that you can move on from here. At least that I can detect. It's really just there. He definitely didn't have the time to move on, grow from this or move on from it or anything.
I've never had an emotion like such a powerful emotional response to an album, because as a fan of Phil Elverum, this is kind of echoing what Anthony said in his review, but as a fan of Phil's music for a while now, and it feels like you're mourning with him. It feels like you got to know him, even though that's kind of dumb to say, but it's rough. It's
Instrumentation on the album, it's very skeletal. It's but it works because like it's more so about the lyrics, if anything. I don't know, like from the moment like I heard Crow, I was super invested in this album, but then Ravens is like, I don't know, it still might be my favorite track on the album, but I don't know, the whole album is like there's really no break from what you're experiencing.
A great amount of like meticulous detail in each of the lyrics. Like you have scenes of him like working in the yard with like plywood or whatever, and all of that meticulous detail really helps the audience connect with what he's trying to convey, because you can actually illustrate all the feelings and emotions that he's feeling inside.
To build off what Jacob said about the skeletal instrumentals, they still have those wrinkles that I love about Mount Eerie. They're all very creaky. It all sounds like it's made out of wood just rubbing against each other.
The little sparks of like
piano, exactly. But a moment on the album that like hits me to my core is when I take out the garbage at night, because that despair that he feels is just, it's so human, and it's he talks about a lot about how death isn't something to make art out of, and how it's something that happens and that people have to deal with. When I take out the garbage at night, it's just him. It's just a man taking out the garbage, and he has to look at his house, and he sees the room where his wife died, and the window's still open because he wants I don't, just because he can't bring himself to close it, and it's heartbreaking. I don't know. That's the most human, relatable, like, depiction of death I think I've ever seen in any song, and it makes sense. It's not like it's a leap because it's true. It's a direct representation of what he's feeling.
One line that really stuck out to me was in the song Forest Fire, and it was, I have it right here, I reject nature, I disagree. Yeah. And I feel like it's a recurring theme throughout this album, that there's this inner conflict within Phil between reality, that death is real, and his emotions, that he doesn't want to accept it. Death is part of nature. It's going to happen to all of us, but it's still something that he doesn't want to deal with, he doesn't want to cope with. Mm-hmm. It's just that unbelievable to him that someone that he loved so much could just die like that.
What I find very interesting, and I think is something we can discuss, is the influence his child, the character his child plays in the record. Yeah. Because, like, she's something that comforts him, but also doesn't. Like, she's
like Genevieve.
It's just a reminder, almost, sometimes.
She's like Genevieve's, like, ghost, almost. Yeah. She, like, especially in Crow, when she says, when his daughter says crow, and he says, "Were you dreaming about a crow?" and then he sees Genevieve there. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's really tough.
Phil really uses, like, the innocence of his own child as a major emotional tool. Like, in the song, I believe it Swims, where she asks, is mom going to swim all the time? And he says yes, because her ashes were thrown into the water. So yeah, her innocence really adds another layer to this entire album.
Everybody is going to have verses that hit them harder. But the one about going out to still pick berries is probably the one that I've thought about the most while I'm not listening to the album. Yeah, I have one coherent thought in that I think the recording adds to the personal feeling of the album.
It does. Like, I feel like it does to all of Phil's work.
Yeah, that's that. The instrumentation, I feel like, it's just kind of something to set the songs to.
Yeah.
Harry has a very different perspective on this album than the rest of us, and I don't necessarily agree, but I definitely respect his opinion on it, and I think it's certainly interesting. And Phil Elverum kind of addresses it himself in the album, though. But Harry's opinion is that this is it's just not art. Like, his opinion on it is that if this were something like Vulnicura, where he gave it a little bit more time to stew, and there were, like, it went that far after, like Vulnicura does. I mean, Vulnicura is obviously a breakup, and this is much more serious. But where if he gave it just time to sit and make it into something besides a diary entry, I guess. Like, Harry thinks that it would be a much more valuable album if he took time to make it a statement on grief or on the process or something. But that's just where he's coming from. So, final thoughts. Yeah, I'm not going to give this a number grade. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I don't think I'll end up putting it on like an album end list or something. I just have a hard time comparing it to albums that I consider entertainment, at least in some fashion. And so I'm just going to say it's definitely something worth pondering and definitely worth listening to if you think you can take it. I haven't heard anything else like it. I know that Black Star was compared to I think it was Mozart who wrote his own funeral march.
Requiem.
What?
I think it was Requiem.
Yeah. He wrote the music for his own funeral, but this still isn't I don't think comparable to either of those. This is something else, and it's something to check out. I definitely and think about.
Yeah, I don't think this album is entertaining, because I genuinely wish that none of like this album didn't exist. But there is something to be said of how I keep coming back and listening to it. And I think it's just hearing, like, I just want Phil to be okay, I guess. And I don't know. It's like you're living the experience with him, and there's nothing else like it I have ever experienced. And I don't know. If, like Ryan said, if you think you can like get through this album, then it's definitely gonna be one of the most interesting things you'll ever experience. And
it's a strange ending to the album, having the Crow looking at his own daughter, because as we've said, his daughter is like a symbol of hope, but at the same time that Crow is looking at her. So Phil's wife's death is always going to linger throughout their lives no matter what, but we can only just hope that their lives can turn out for the better, and that they can find hope throughout life. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, it does feel really bad to rank this album. It truly exists in its own category. I don't think you can compare it to anything else. I think everyone should check this out. I mean, other than the fact that I've been a huge Phil Everum fan for a while, I think even if you don't like his music, I think there's still stuff to glean from his experiences. I didn't want this album. I wish this fucking album didn't happen. Mm-hmm. I wish I wasn't sitting here talking about it right now. That's the strangest thing, because I've listened to sad albums before, and I've had albums make me cry, but I've never resented them. I've never hated their stench. I've never wanted to push them out of my life. But this album just sits in your fucking heart like a 10-ton weight. Mm-hmm. It fucking hurts, but it's some pain I think that is worth experiencing from the lessons that you glean from it. If you enjoyed this record, or if you enjoyed any of Phil's music, please go to his website and support him.
All right, thank you for watching.
Maybe the week roundup.
No.
Next week.
It was very bad.